welcome to, I guess, a YouTube channel that's going to combine two very different things. I know that wasn't a long enough beginning to show you that this was going to be a craft/murder YouTube channel. I was trying to be artsy, and here we are, into it already. I have 12 minutes to discuss the depraved murderer Ed Kemper while you watch me craft a collage. And if these things make no sense to you, neither one interests you, quickly exit. Get out of here. You're not going to like this. This is not safe for work. This is not safe for under 18. These are my two passions. And I'm going to tell you while I get ready for this collage in 4 times the speed, because obviously I'm not doing it real time, why I love these two things. Both of them relax me, and that's going to make me sound like a lunatic, but here's why. Crafting, creating something from nothing, there's something very relaxing and satisfying about that. And that's, pretty common for many women in my age bracket, which would be 40 somewhere. Secondly, murder. Murder, though many people think I'm obsessed with it because I'd like to try it, the real reason I'm obsessed with murder is because, like many women, it is a very, I think I would say it is one of our greatest fears. So, and I love this quote, and I will repeat this to everybody at a party, and that's why you don't want to be cornered by me at a party. A man's greatest fear is to be laughed at, and a woman's greatest fear is to be murdered. So the reason I obsess about true crime and murder is because I want to know all the ways I could get murdered and avoid those. Yeah, does that make me pathological? Maybe, but I'm not a murderer. I don't condone murdering. And if you're listening to this, you probably have a true crime obsession. And I'm betting it's for the very same reason I do. You want to make sure you keep yourself and your family safe from these, I don't know, what do you call them? Animals. No, that's an insult to animals. Depraved lunatics. So let's start with the one that always gets me, and I have about 10 minutes to tell you this story, and it's just, I don't know, I hope you're not eating. This is the story of Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer. So Ed Kemper is infamous in so many ways. One, for being a serial killer, but two, because of the Netflix series Mindhunter and the fabulous Canadian actor, and I forget his name, and who played him. Ed Kemper was born in December 1948, and he was a difficult teenager. No surprise there. He had an IQ of 136, which is high. If you believe in IQ tests, I don't know. Who cares? Who gives a fuck about that? But I'll tell you one thing about Ed. He was a sociopath early on, and he tortured and killed animals, and he acted out bizarre sexual rituals with his sister's dolls. So there you go. You know this guy's fucked. The first thing we find out about Ed, and we find this from his own words as he's still living today in prison, thank God. He tells us about his conquests, that in 1964, he shot his grandmother while she sat at the kitchen table, putting the finishing touches on her children's book. She was a children's book author. And this little asshole, at 15 years old, decided he would shoot her. When his grandfather came home, he also shot him in the back of the head. And when questioned later, after his murder spree, he said he wanted to see what it felt like to kill Grandma. He was 15 years old. He was well over 6 feet. He was a giant boy. So after that, he was committed, rightly so, to, I can't pronounce this, let's give it a try, Atascadero State Hospital. This is all happening in California. And he served some time there, and he was very popular, probably because of his high IQ. He could make friends, and he could play the game, as they say. And he was eventually released into his mother's care at the dismay of many of the doctors. They did not think he was going to be safely reintegrated in society, and sure, they were right. So he grows up, he works odd jobs, he's 6'9", he weighs more than 300 pounds, he's quiet, he's unassuming, he's very dangerous. So between May 1972 and February 1973, he went on a murder spree. He picked up hitchhikers. He took them to isolated areas and he killed them. Now, these hitchhikers, the names of these women are far more important than the name of this son of a bitch who did the killing. So listen to the names of these poor women who lost their lives to this idiot. Marianne Pesk and Anita Luchese were students at Fresno College, and they were hitchhiking. And that happened back in the day. I mean, you wouldn't do that now, but people did that before. I hope I'm not saying too much, because this is my first one, and I feel like I might be, but I hope you're okay with that. Anyway, they never reached their destination. Ed picked them up. He drove them around for a bit. He turned his attention toward Marianne, and he handcuffed her and laid her across the back seat, put a plastic bag over her head, tried to strangle her. She bit a hole in the bag because she's a motherfucking badass, and she was trying to save herself. But he used a knife and he stabbed her, and eventually he did kill her. He then removed Anita from the trunk, and what a nightmare this would be. I can't even imagine. And he killed her with a larger knife. And of course she fought, because she's also a badass motherfucker. But he wore her down. 6'9", 300 pounds. These poor women had no chance. He drove around with the bodies in the car for a while. He didn't know what to do, so he brought the bodies to his apartment. He undressed them and dissected them. This is how depraved this guy is. He undressed them and dissected the bodies. He beheaded the bodies. He was very, very sick and twisted. So no one suspected him. He was clean cut. I don't think they knew of his past. And no one suspected him. The next one's really sad. It made my stomach sick when I read about it. Not that the earlier ones are not. And I hope you know, as I'm making this collage, I have absolutely, I guess I'm not thinking about murder when I'm making this. I'm making a collage with like a lunar kind of celestial feel, and it calms me. And I did throw a little hint in about what my next video is going to be about. So if you can find that in there, you'll know about the next murderer I'm going to talk about next week. But right now, we're just talking about it. Anyway, the next one was a 15-year-old girl. And she was on her way to dance class, and she took a ride from Ed rather than getting the bus. And devastating. Her name was Eiko Ku. She was a dancer. And she panicked, according to Ed. He convinced her he was going to use the gun on himself, and eventually he did kill her, rape her after she was dead, and strangled her to make sure that the job was done. And later that night, he brought the body to his apartment and dissected her as well. So 4 months passed, and there were other victims from other serial killers that won't be mentioned tonight. Soon he picked up a woman named Cindy, and he shot her with his new gun. And he had recently moved back in with his mother, troubled in work and social life, and he had sex with Cindy's corpse. He dissected her in the bathtub. He took great care to wash away the traces of what he had done, and he even removed the bullet from her skull. Like, this is just an unbelievably evil person. Next, he picked up a hitchhiker, Rosalind. He engaged her in conversation. He picked up another named Alice. She got in the car because it was his mother's car, and she worked at the university, and it had a sticker, so it looked safe. He pointed the gun at those two girls and fired several times. And of course, he was just ridiculously disgusting with the bodies. So he gets home within days of this murder, and he gets pissed off at his mother. He fights with his mother, Clarnell Strandberg is her name. And she actually had no idea what he was up to. But he fights with her to the point where he gets so angry, when she is sleeping peacefully, he gets a hammer and he bludgeons her to death and slashes her throat. He then, and this is key to the story, I don't know why, removes the larynx, tries to put it in the garbage disposal, but it's too thick or something disgusting like that. And he hid her body in a closet and cleaned up instead. Then he pondered what to do. What a serial killer ponders what to do after a murder? I don't know. What is he thinking? He decides to call one of his mother's friends over, and then he murders her. He says he wanted to have a surprise dinner for his mother. When his mother's friend Sarah arrives, he strangles her and removes her clothes, and then of course he has sex with her corpse because he's a nightmare. After this, he decides to make a phone call and confess all of his fucking crimes. And thank God, I mean, he murdered so many goddamn people. Thank God he makes a phone call to confess his crimes. That's me changing my papers, if you can hear that. And now I'm going to have a sip of wine because that made my stomach sick. And although I'm fascinated, I still get affected by how dark and depraved that whole scenario is. So Ed Kemper, and if you watch Netflix movie Mind Hunter, you'll see the character of him, and they almost make him likable, which I don't know. Is that shameful? Is that okay? The actor is so wonderful. Well, watch it. Let me know in the comments what you think. But they asked for the death penalty. He of course gets life in prison instead, and he's still there today. And he does interviews and he chats with people, and it's enough to make you sick. So be careful. Be careful out there. You never know. Look at that artsy shot of that candle. Oh my God, I'm getting right into this. Okay, thanks for watching. Love you. Bye.